All right, I'm on hole number 11 of the Silver State Tournament. I'm in the opening round of the Rookie Division. Hole number 11. This is hole number 2 of the Milano. Maybe. How many times I got to push that button? All right. I seem like I'm regressing on this hole. I'm not exactly sure what the deal is, but I was right on top of it, figured out the distance. Now I'm doing the same stuff, and now I feel like I'm regressing. So I'm going to use a sniper. One of these bags has got to have a sniper in it. And I'm going to use a navigator. What I got? Nav. Doing 5 backspin, 10% wind adjustment. So, okay. Let me draw some stuff on here. Let's go. Let's get this. Let's go in here. I want to figure out some math for myself here. So, I'm using a sniper. And I'm using a navigator. And I'm in, here's my red line for minimum club, and here's like my red line for maximum club. So where I'm hitting at out here, I'm pretty much in mid club. So my sniper, the way I hit it, it hits about 1.0, 1.2, and then it could be like 1.3 somewhere. You know, this number is variable just depending. So, but like mid club, I usually hit about 1.2. So I should be in mid club. So at 1.2, let's say I had, just for easy math, I had a 3.6 wind, and I adjusted out and I did 3 rings. So the wind on this tournament's going in this direction, so I pulled it back this way 3 rings, and then I added on, let's say 30 or 40% wind, because you know you're way downhill. Like from where the tee box is to where the flagpole is, it's way downhill, and you can tell because you can't get way down on your ring set. You can't see the blades of grass. So you know it's way downhill. So you know that we probably should be adding on 30-40%, right? So if I do the 1.2, which is 3 rings, and then I added on, let's say 30%, that would give me 0.36. So that would be 0.36 onto that would put me right about 4 miles per hour wind. So if I did 3, that would give me, I basically have to move it about 3 1/4, 3 1/3 rings. But then I'm way off. But if I do a full wind adjustment and 10%, okay, that means I'm going to move it 3.6 rings instead of 3. And then I add on 10%, which is a little, negligible on that 3. So that's going to be 4. So I'm going to move it 4 rings. I'm pretty much getting, if I do this right here, this is already a 20% wind adjustment just by doing a max ring. So like when they, like let's say you watch Tommy and Tommy says, hey, on this hole right here, and I think Tommy says on this hole you're supposed to do a 40% wind adjustment. Okay, 40% of where at in your club, because you're in mid club. So if you're doing a full ring adjustment of 1, and then you add on 40% of the wind, and the wind was 4 miles per hour, so 10% would be 0.4. 4 times 0.4 is 1.6. So basically you're going to move a 5.6. So if you were doing a full wind adjustment, you're going to move 5.6 rings. But where you really should be is, because you're in mid club, it should be 1.2 per ring. And if you're going to move 5.6, then that's 4.8 would be 4. And that leaves you 6, 7, 8. So you're basically moving 4.5 rings. So, you know, when people tell you, hey, you should be adding on wind, you also have to figure out where you're at in your club. So like if you're always using your max adjustment of 1 and then you're adding on 40%, or if you're using your mid number and you're adding on 40%, you're going to end up with two different spots. That's why if you watch my videos on a regular basis, I'm like, you have to figure out some of this stuff for yourself. And the way you figure it out is by starting off hitting this with, you know, you can start off and go, hey, I'm in mid club, I should be at 1.2 per ring. So do your 1.2 and then go, hey, that didn't work. And then see, like, and you can only figure out if it didn't work if you hit perfect. So then you hit perfect, and it didn't work, then you can go back and watch the video. That's why it's important to record your own gameplay. Go back and watch the video and go, okay, where did I end up? Like, do I need to add on 40% onto the 1.2? Or if I use the full adjustment, do I only need to add on 10%? And so when somebody tells you that, hey, you need to add on, are you adding on for a full wind adjustment, or are you adding on for the mid club because that's where you're actually at? That's why if you go into the rounds with notes based off of what you learned in some of the guides, and then you only play based off those notes, and you're not getting the results that you want, you have to dial that stuff in for your clubs and for where you're at. And so on this hole, I'm still struggling on this hole to get this stuff all dialed in. I'm close, but I haven't quite got it figured out yet. And I think a lot of times when people are playing this game and they're like, well, I was really close on that, but I wasn't right there. You have to continue to dial in, and you can't take what somebody else's numbers are and say, hey, that's going to work for me. Not unless you're using the same ball, you're in the same spot, you're using the same club, and everything is exactly the same. Then you can still go through and try and perfect that. But you have to dial that in for your game. So if you're using those numbers and you're always off just a little bit, you have to be able to be willing to move off your notes and continue to explore, why am I always off to the left? On the second par 3 that we have, which is hole number 4, every single time I've been on there this week, I ended up to the right. I don't care, I've ended up to the right. So I'm making big adjustments on that to try and get myself so that I'm aimed towards the cup. Because if I keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, number one, that's the definition of insanity. And number two, I'm not going to get a different result unless I'm willing to adjust my game. See how my opponent does here. They're going right at it. I like that spot. I'm not necessarily sure I like that wind adjustment, but I like that spot. It looked like they didn't pull out enough of the wind. Okay, so I'm going to get up in this, do 5 backspin. 3, 4, 5. I'm going to get right down here on it so I can see what the heck is going on. Maybe my orange ring off down here. I'm going right at the hole. 4, 5, 10%. That's about a 5 ring pull. Hitting it perfect. I think I'm going to be a little short. But I'm on track. So I was a little short at the beginning of the week. So what I did was I had my orange ring 2 rings off. My orange ring I was 2 rings into the rough. And so what I did was I compensated and pulled my rings forward a little bit so that the ball guy was going directly into the cup. But then I started getting farther down the hill. And so when I got farther down the hill, it carries a little bit farther, and I actually ran over the cup and ran off the other side of the green and just barely got into the rough. So I think I like where I'm at as far as the orange ring on the edge of the rough transition between the rough and the fairway. And what I need to do is add like maybe 4 3/4 backspin instead of the 5. Because I like the spot where I'm hitting right there, and I like I'm doing a 10% wind adjustment with a normal full 1 per ring, even though I'm in mid club, and then adding on 10%. So basically I'm doing a 30% wind adjustment if I was at mid club. But I'm going to change my notes here, and I'm going to add on 4. Which hole is that? I'm going to add on, instead of 5 backspin, I'm going to do 4 3/4. And I'm going to take off just a little teeny bit of backspin on that, because I like the spot where I'm landing. I like that part of the hill, because here's the hill going in and then here's the green. So I'm 2 rings off of this transition between the little fairway area, and here's the fringe, here's the green fringe, fairway, here's that rough. And I'm 2 rings off of this transitional area, so my ball guide shows I'm going to land here. So when you push forward, now you're further down the hill. And so it can tend to carry just a little bit farther. But I like this spot. It's easy to set it up where I'm 2 rings off. And I'm ending up a little short. So instead of trying to move the ball a little bit closer, I'm going to take off a little teeny bit of the backspin and see if I can work my way closer to the hole. All right, that was hole number 11 of the Silver State Tournament in the opening round of the Rookie Division. Thanks for watching.